Alright, we're going to go through some of the basic functions of the iDrive-8 system, particularly set up and visit several of the important menus in here. It's a very large system, there's a lot in here, but this is just going to be good for starting off and learning the system. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to from our home menu, we're going to go to our upper left main menu here, and then we're going to go to BMW ID. And this is what we would do if we did not already have a profile on the car. Now you should have one set up for you when your car is delivered, but in the event that you don't, you go to Add BMW ID and then log in with the MyBMW app. And you are going to need the MyBMW app on your phone in order to proceed. So once you log in, the car is going to generate a QR barcode. On your phone, you're going to come over to, on your app, you're going to come down to the bottom right extreme icon, then you're going to come over here to the top right gear icon, and then scan QR, and then you'll scan your QR here. Now in the case of this car does not have an owner at this time, so once you scan on your car, if you're setting up your profile for the first time, you're going to see a synchronized BMW ID for the profile. You're going to go ahead and proceed forward with that. You'll have a couple setup items and a getting started guide. I usually skip through the getting started guide, but that's up to you. But we'll come back out to the main menu over here. And I'm going to go ahead and filter down the vehicle apps to go through some more of the basics. So mobile devices, this is where we're going to add a phone. You would go over here to connect new device, of course. And then you would come into the Bluetooth menu, and in this case, we have an iPhone, but we would see this pop up at the bottom once it picks it up over here, and then we have the last 5 digits of the VIN number. We're just waiting for that to pop up on the phone. There it is, and then we would go ahead and proceed to pair here. When you do go to set this up, we want to tell both devices what they want to hear. So you would hit pair on the phone, and you hit yes on the car, and allow contacts on the phone. That way you're going to be able to use the phone functions. Now if you want to use CarPlay, you would go ahead and select it here, and then the phone's going to ask for a couple more permissions to allow CarPlay, and then you're going to have a use CarPlay option that's also going to pop up. Now in this case we'll just use Bluetooth just to keep it simple, but if you do use CarPlay, just know that you do need the Siri function set up on your phone before CarPlay is enabled. For Android users, Android Auto is going to be the equivalent on the Android end. And we'll go ahead and back out of this menu for now. Okay, so we're connected to Bluetooth only here, and we can see that we're functioning for media and for the phone. And then CarPlay is what we would do to go over here to open up the CarPlay menu. So we'll go ahead and back out of here. Some of these are not as important. We do have the personal assistant on here though. This is going to be basic commands. This is good for learning the car, for the things you can say. There's hundreds of commands, technically thousands of them, as the car is using Google to authenticate what you're saying. So it's not so much remembering the commands as it is going through some of the basics over here just to get a general understanding of some of the things you can say to the car. Now, coming out of this menu, the next one, our live vehicle menu. This is going to be all the information specific to your vehicle. That's going to give you some information you're going to need, maintenance information primarily. You'll also have fuel efficiency information on here as well. So tire pressure monitor, for example. And this is all in real time. These are all updated very frequently. Engine oil level. And one thing to know is that these don't need to be manually checked. If there's ever any abnormalities or the car is getting close to needing service, it's going to let you know. And that's also going to correspond to what pops up on your app as well. Now we can come over here and move some things around, trip data, for example, just to bring up some more metrics and to determine when all of these are reset. For example, if you want it resetting your trip meter every time you fill up, you can go to since last refuel. So we'll come back out of here, back into the menu, system settings. So often the date and the time will not come with the automatic time setting. This is essentially for daylight savings time and for your time zone. So if you select this, this will go ahead and turn those on so that you don't have to adjust this several times a year. And it's not going to populate right now. We're filming this in a basement, so it's probably not bringing signal, otherwise that would turn on. Language, of course. Voice control is where we go to adjust what happens when we want to summon the car with the personal assistant over here and the wake word. The default is hello BMW. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off so it doesn't interrupt us, but we can govern the wake word from there as well. So I'll come back out of here. Unit sound settings, treble bass for those vehicles equipped with higher end sound systems. We're going to have an equalizer that's going to pop up over here as well. And we have some touchpad settings as well. Notification settings, those are all going to be over here. I'm going to go ahead and back out of there. There's a getting started guide that would have been presented to us when we add our profile. Now the remote software upgrades on these cars, this is automatically downloaded periodically when they're sent out, but you can always manually search for one right here as well. So now we'll come into our interior lighting. It's for changing the color of our interior lights. Let's say we wanted to go full blue, for example. We come over here, select the color. We can adjust our brightness if we want. So we'll come back out of here. Now, the built-in owner's manual, this is really important. This is very good for learning the car. These guides essentially walk you through in order the way BMW thinks you should learn the car. For the quick reference guide, topics, operating tips, there's going to be some media in here, just some short videos that are going to show you animated versions of how some of the things in the car work. But the keyword function is probably going to be the most useful. For example, if I'm learning how to program the garage door openers, I can go GAR, garage door opener, and I can read all about everything over here, programming in the garage door openers, and this will kind of give me an input-output method of doing so. So we're going to come all the way back out of here. Climate control functions, that's the same as this menu over here. So in our climate control, sync is going to bring everything to the driver's side. So if you start adjusting anything other than the driver's side, these will become individualized. You can see sync turned off, and then turning sync back on brings everything to the driver's control. Now, for those of you that are turning on your remote starts for the first time, if equipped, settings over here, and then preconditioning, and then the remote engine start system does need to be enabled. It will come off, turned off from the factory, and you'll have just shy of 15 minutes for the engine running for those of you that are using entirely internal combustion engines. So we're going to come back out of here, back into the menu. Our ConnectedDrive store, this is just a spin-off that BMW put in here to give you a little bit more access to some of the functions of the cars and the things you can add onto the car instead of having to go directly through the internet or through your app. But you can certainly do so as well from your MyBMW.com portal. Displays. So in the event that the car has a head-up display, you'll have a head-up display menu here with options for raising or lowering the projector. It's a very functional menu there, and moving some things around on your instrument cluster. Doors and windows menu, very important menu here. So the lock unlock menu first is going to show what happens when you unlock the car. Now this is if you grab the door handle for comfort access, or if you're pressing the first press of unlock on your key fob. Regardless of your setting here, if you have this in driver's door only, the second press of unlock on the key fob will always unlock the remaining doors on the car, but otherwise it would default to just the driver's door or all doors. All right, and then of course sound and flash for lock and unlock, fold the mirrors, unlock and unlock, you can turn that on as well. You have a bunch of other settings in here. Now the comfort access system, unlock when approaching and lock when walking away. Usually these will default off, but the way this would work is when you go to approach on the driver's door, the car will unlock when you're about 7.5 feet from the car is the spec. However, when walking away, the car won't lock until you're 10 feet away from the car. That gives you a chance to walk around to the back and get into the trunk if you'd like without the car locking on you for your comfort access. And that's just synonymous with what's in that menu. You have some key settings as well, and of course tailgate settings. You can open your tailgate. Some cars with the electric tailgate, you can close it as well with the foot movement. That can be turned off. So we'll come out of here to our driving settings. Now, your driver assistance functions, we'll kind of go through these from top to bottom. Safety and warning. Forward collision mitigation system. Early is always the best. There's really no need to turn this all the way to late. Your collision mitigation is going to start applying the brakes for you if someone in front of you goes to slam on their brakes, and on some vehicles can provide steering influence as well for going around an object as long as there's a clear way around it. This is not designed to stop the car for you, right? This is here to start the braking process. And will give you an indication in your instrument cluster and if equipped on your head-up display as well, if this gets triggered. Now, further down the menu here, lane departure warning. You can turn on or off steering intervention. Sometimes this is a little alarming for people. If you go to cross over the threshold without using your turn signal and you cross right over the dotted lines, you'll have a little bit of a tug back on the steering wheel. If you don't like that, you can turn steering intervention off, or for any reason you don't want that system on, you can turn that off altogether. So, blind spot monitors. Medium is always the default. You can move it to late if you're in a very high traffic area. Early is going to be extremely sensitive. I usually don't leave it on early. Medium or late I think is okay. And then the fatigue alert. This is the car determining your movement on the controls or your lack thereof. After so much time, it will present a notification to you to kind of wake you up. This is really designed to alert drivers that may be getting a little bit tired behind the wheel, and will recommend that you stop for a break if it detects that it thinks you're getting tired or becoming a little lazy on your control inputs. Right. Then we can go back in. We have the speed warning available where we can select a definitive speed. This is not plus a certain amount of speed over the speed limit. This is just a specific speed. Like if you have a tendency to drive a little bit fast, which it's a BMW, so you probably will, you can set a specific speed to trigger, which is just going to tell you when you're going too fast. It's not going to mechanically limit the car's top speed. And then speed limit warnings as well can be adjusted. This will let you adjust how high over the limit until it triggers, and then you have a second adjustment up to 40 miles an hour as a secondary on here. That's configurable as well. So we'll come back out of here. Parking menu, parking and maneuvering, cross-traffic alert system can be turned on and off for traffic that is moving adjacent to you. PDC, this is the beeping that you hear when backing up. You can adjust the volume there as well too. And then of course you have the grid lines and the obstacle markers. Those are the green, yellow, orange, and red markers that you see when the car is in reverse for your reverse camera. Driving is just back to speed limit assistance, and the feedback on the steering wheel is the vibration, which is set to high by default, but that's also configurable. Okay, drivetrain and chassis. So the iconic sounds are the digital sounds that BMW uses to help heighten your experience of what the car's doing, to communicate to the driver. And then you can turn those on and off if you'd like. They can also be turned on and off quickly just from these little widgets over here as well. Now going down, exterior lighting, 3 clicks of the turn signal. If you press on the turn signal lightly, you're going to get 3 clicks out of it. You can change this to 1 if you prefer to hold it down, and then you'll get 1 click, 1 flash just by pressing up against the turn signal. Daytime driving lights, we always leave those on. And then pathway lighting, if you pull back on the high beams after you're turning the car off, you'll get so many seconds of light. It's good for going up a dark driveway. Vehicle status is the menu we were in before. Now, by this point in time, you can see that there's a lot of redundancy in the system in terms of accessing all the major functions. That's there intentionally. So instead of pressing the home button, I can come down to the center console and I can press on home. That's another way. These are just things that BMW does to make it a little bit easier to access these things on the fly, so that there's usually 2 or 3 different ways of getting to the same place to speed that up. Now we'll go ahead and come back to the main menu now, and we'll go through some of the major functions here. First of all, on the main menu, we have our widgets over here. These can be moved, and they are configurable. We can actually add, there's a few more that we can add over here, and we can move them around. So we can tap, hold, drag, and drop if we want to move them. Now, to add favorites to the car, on previous versions they had numbered pads, numbered keys over here. We can still do it on this. This is just all done through the screen now. So if we swipe down from the top over here, we can see that these are unassigned, but we can add up to 8 shortcuts, as they call them over here. And that's really just by doing a long tap on a given menu. Add to shortcuts. And then if we add that over here, that's going to be here at the top, as we can see now. If I wanted to go to media, and then it's going to stay there. This is unique for every driver profile, and there's far more than just this that we can add. There's hundreds of different things we can add just by pressing, doing a long tap, and going to add to shortcuts to add that in as well, as we can see. All right, media menu next. We select what type of media we're looking for. We can look for media on our phone. We can go to any of our radio stations as well, and there's also shortcuts to mobile devices and media radio settings. So if we go directly to our satellite radio, for example, we can go ahead and start building a preset list here. Phone menu, we were already in this, where we're going to see all of these here, just another redundant way to access it. And then finally we have our navigation system. So bottom left over here is going to be our perspective. I like moving it down to kind of a 3D perspective on the screen. After a few seconds, everything's going to disappear and the screen's going to go to its full size, as you can see. Now, entering in an address, right? So destination input. We can go over here. Now there's a couple of other options here that BMW's put here just to make it a little bit easier to find these things quickly, things that they think we're going to be going to. But if we go over here to search, we can punch everything in just the way we'd be writing it out on a postcard. So if I'm going to BMW Fairfax, 8427, and then that's going to be Lee Highway. And of course, it's going to try and finish it for us over here on the right, based on where we are. 8427 Lee Highway, Fairfax, Virginia looks good. We can save it as a favorite, which will be in that menu as well. But let's go ahead and start guidance just to show. So we are all set here with our guidance running, and then we are also going to see this in the center as well. There is a button on the right thumb spoke of the steering wheel that allows us to configure what we see in the center of the instrument cluster, as well as what would be on our head-up display. This particular vehicle doesn't have it, but we would be able to configure that also from the steering wheel. So moving forward, we're in guidance right now. We can always tell we're in guidance if we're in this menu because we can see the ability to stop guidance over here. And pressing the microphone and saying stop guidance are one of the most popular used voice functions. It's so much easier to tell the car to stop guidance than to come back into the menu and then stop it over here. We can also cancel guidance over here as well. So while we're in guidance, a couple different options. Again, a lot of this is all designed to be used by touch. We can always come down here and start spinning on the controller to zoom in and out. And then of course we can see our path over here in a grayscale map, and our points of interest, which we can tap on to go to any of those points of interest. We can add those in as an intermediate destination, and we can get details on a point of interest. So more information on that gas station, for example. There's their phone number, some more information about what they sell. So route overview, if we come over here, this would normally just give us individual blocks for where we're going to go. At 0.6 miles away, we only have one, but we can see a lot more just by going through those. And then if we back out of here, alternative routes, different areas that we can go, and they're color coded, so they make it pretty easy to select between them and what each one would look like, as we can see over here. Now, instructions on or off, if we want to adjust the volume, we do so while it's talking, right? So we would just adjust when it goes to make an input. Otherwise, if we turn that off, then it won't speak. Suggestions, content and zoom. Standard automatic zoom. The car's automatically going to zoom based on our speed and where we are. If we're on a highway going down an exit ramp at high speed, it's going to zoom out for us. If we're going down a side street at very low speed, it's going to zoom in and then zoom back out when a turn is coming up. So if we're far between waypoints, then it's going to zoom in primarily, but we'll expand our view so that we can see a little bit more. And finally, our settings down here. This is where we can really add or take away from the map. guidance services, all of these are adjustable from here. These are some of our permanent settings over here. Length of spoken instructions, automatic detailed reduced. If we don't want long instructions, or if we just want a gong, essentially just a ding notification, we can select that as well. And we'll come back out of here. So we're going to go ahead and stop guidance right now. Recent destinations over here are where we're going to see where we've gone in the past. And again, if we ever want to save any of those, we can add that to shortcuts, or you can save the destination as a favorite. So it's going to show up over here. And then we can also add in our home and our work. Doing this is also going to communicate with the app on our phone, and then the app will present instructions or how long it will take to get to any of our popular favorites over here based on routine. So if every day you go to work at a certain time, the app will pick up on this after so many drive cycles, and then will present to you how long it will take you to get to that favorite every day just before you normally leave. So we're going to go ahead and come back out of nav. So as you can see, that's a good basic overview of the iDrive-8 system. Again, there's a lot of customizing that we can do in the system, some more widgets that can be added over here. But there's many different menus, and there's menus within menus of the system. You do need to spend a little bit of time going through some of the options in here, but everything you've just seen now is plenty just to get familiarized with it, and to really start learning the system. Finally, the only other option is the infotainment apps that we didn't go through. These are the apps that are really here primarily for our phone. So we can see Android Auto for Android users, Apple CarPlay as well for Apple users, and some of the more popular items that we move around in navigation. There's the radios over there, as you can see. So that's going to be a good basic overview of the whole system. And thanks very much for watching.